see if it's working over here. Every day I'm playing with more parts. Merry March, Merry March. Oh, I think my camera is so dirty. Of course it would be. Ah, come here, camera. Pardon me, Facebook. I'm so sorry. It didn't occur to me to take care of this tiny little idea until just then. Now my camera's not gonna want to go right back where it was. How's it? Are we okay? Are we in there? We're sort of in there. We can do a little better. It's been so tricky getting all these parts in the right place. All right, now let me see if I can hear me. This will be the new fun part. Okay. I think I can. It's alive. We're gonna just be good enough with this. That'll do. That'll do it.
Parts in the right place.
Okay, cool. I wanted to leave this up because I rarely get any indication that someone is in the live when I'm here. So I feel like it's a little easier to navigate from the phone. So that's what I'm gonna do with that. Okay. Random question, but do you know how to move yours without touching? I don't. That would be cool to know though. I feel like I've tried. So I actually know that I don't know how to do that. Funnily enough. So I feel like it's a little easier to navigate from the phone. Did you hear that noise in the background? So that's what I'm gonna do. That was a little crazy. I'm just gonna ignore that. It's not a ghost. Is it a ghost? All right. Happy Sunday. I'm trying to get this TikTok angle better. I can turn me down over here now. Yeah. All right. Perfect. KKK, I got it. Not that one though. Ew. So on Sunday, the way that I care for my energy is by slowing down, by taking more time during the day to care about myself, to care about what I'm doing for myself, for the house, for my work. I think about the week ahead and how I can get myself ready, how I can make it easier for myself. Some people do like meal prepping. Some people would get like laundry prepared. You know, there are lots of ways that you can take care of yourself on this day to sort of set you up in a powerful way for the whole week. And I realize that like doing laundry and meal prepping, all that cannot sound super exciting, right? Like it can seem meh. But this is where you get to add the parts that's like work. The idea for you is to make it enjoyable. You know, how can you bring joy, bring pleasure, bring appreciation into these mundane, seemingly meh tasks? And once you start realizing, you know, I'm doing this and maybe this feels annoying, but I love when I get to the part of the day where, you know, for me, I love waking up and pushing the button on the coffee machine and it's already gonna go. I feel like that is such a thing that's already being done for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to set the timer because I don't wake up with an alarm. So I'd rather just get there when I get there. But sometimes setting up the coffee and cleaning it can be a little bit annoying. It feels very tasky. And then I always will quickly remind myself like how much I love this being done in the morning, how much I appreciate having that coffee already just ready to go as soon as I wake up. And it's kind of easy to get myself out of a mood of annoyed and into, thank you, Nancy, you're so good to me. You know, I like to tell myself that. I tell myself, I love the way that you take care of me. You take very good care of me. Every day you take more and more care of me. Good morning, Richard, how's it going? So this is just a couple of ideas that you can start to do in your day. I love to talk about those moments in the middle that are seemingly unimportant. I think that's where a lot of our manifesting actually grows and culminates from. And I think that I'm super duper really great, really, really, really great. Thank you. I think that's where a lot of if you would think about the food in the soil, or the nutrition that we eat in our body, I think that's where a lot of that comes from. I think it comes from these moments in the middle. It seems, I remember I have 3 kids, and I remember being the mom that was needing something to look forward to, whether it was a holiday or a trip. And when I didn't have that, it felt very sad, it felt very, very low energy, very uninspired, unmotivated. I didn't want to get up and do stuff. Taking care of the things that I had to do every day that I didn't love felt even more annoying, and even like seasonal depression, like that sort of space kind of grew there, because right after the holidays, after Christmas and New Year, there was really nothing for me to do all the way till March. And with 3 kids, it usually meant I'm going to be kind of in the house with 3 kids by myself, bouncing off the walls. So it didn't really feel that exciting to me, and I did work. So sometimes it'd be 3 kids, sometimes it'd be 10 kids. But, it was just me and a lot of little people in the house for months. And it could feel very uninspiring, And now I let these moments in the middle, the days in the middle, all of them for me now are really enjoyable. Even parts where I'm in a space where I'm like, oh my God, I want to do this. I like to catch myself thinking that and sort of take the power back. When I hear myself say that, I know that's a subconscious pattern running. I don't on purpose do anything I don't want to do. And in truth, anything I have to do, even if I don't want to do it, and this is where it gets a little mind bendy, a little bit like someone from the outside would look in and see it like a fake it till you make it. But even if I don't want to do it, I will get myself behind a want for it. Even if it's something that is very not enjoyable to do, like go to court, right? Nobody wants to go to court except for a lawyer because they probably get paid well. But nobody wants to go to court, but you want the outcome. You know that you're worthy of the justice. You know what I mean? So you can sort of retrain your thoughts to go with that. This is hard, but I am worth it. This is not my favorite thing to do. I'll be so appreciative when this is over. Thank you for taking care of this. Thank you for doing this. I'm gonna be with myself. I'm gonna be with my higher power. I'm gonna slow down. I'm not gonna react to anything. I'm gonna let this unfold for me. This is working out for me. Even these, especially the hard places, get to work out for me, to let more joy in, more good in. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today in the world of alchemy. So some of you know, some of you don't, but one of my favorite tools for healing and creation is alchemy. The very first thing that I ever practiced magic with was an eggshell. And I was making breakfast for the littles, and I'm just going in the normal day. Again, this was long before I understood fully about my intuition. This was when there were still moments of, am I losing my mind or am I getting better? It's a little hard to tell. I feel better, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But I don't know. Some of the stuff that I'm saying, some of the things that I'm doing, I would and have called not well in the past, maybe crazy, And I don't like to say that word loosely now because it's not a nice word, because people can have that word thrown at them in ways that's not fair, and it feels like a weapon. So I don't want to say that in a misuse way, but in my mind, in my body, I wondered that for myself. Have I gone mad? Like, uh-oh, get the room ready. So this day I'm making breakfast, and I'm making the eggs, and I hear save this, and I'm like this, you know, literally. I kind of was just like this. And I just felt like sureness. Not an answer, but a sureness. So I rinsed it off and I just set it by the sink and I just waited to hear something next because this was not a world I was familiar with. Okay? None of this were worlds I was familiar with. And I think that's why I love it so much. You know, I love that this is my own, unicorns exist, you know, magic is real, manifesting is real, my thoughts do matter, my feelings matter. Oh my God, everybody, not everybody, but very important people once told me that wasn't true. And I believed them. And now when I'm believing this, it feels different and exciting. And maybe there's a little bit of me going a little mad, but I feel so much better. So I'm gonna keep doing it. And so in this space of alchemy, whenever something would pop into my mind, I would then Google it. So after I'm done cleaning up, I kind of went to the Google and I said, you know, spiritual meaning of eggshell. And, you know, it mentioned new beginnings. It mentioned like protection and strong but fragile, you know? And I was like, wow, I kind of love this. I love what it's saying, you know? So then I just thought about it and I'm not sure if this was a mix of what I researched and what I sort of intuited. But the idea was to now use this eggshell. I used to practice with the moon, full moon mostly in the beginning, but in the beginning it was mostly just moon practices. I would try is not the best word. I would on purpose use like energy. You know, you would see me writing things down and maybe tossing it into a fire. I didn't really know what I was doing, you know, but you would also see me making moon water and it seemed like a great idea and it felt like a good idea, but I still didn't know what I was doing. I was just learning. And as an experimental person, that's how I learn. Like the science mind in me has to get in there and like tinker and see if it's going to fall apart. You know, I don't want to learn things that are flimsy. Anybody can put energy into a fad or not truth, but I like learning real. You know, I like learning power. And so when it came to the eggshell ideas, it was to sit with this shell and to think about the things I want. Think about the things that I'm ready to manifest or have. In the beginning, I won't even go back to those ideas because it was really a weird space. Happy March! Good morning. It was really a weird space in the beginning because my ego was so undernourished. I didn't know how to want for myself. You know, I wanted other people around me to be happier so that they would be more kind to me. That was the sort of want that I kept thinking of. You know, everything about me was so codependent and I didn't understand that word. You know, to me, that word pissed me off. Like, what do you mean I'm codependent? All I do is take care of other people. How can I be the codependent one? But it was true. You know, if I didn't have those other people to care for, I didn't feel like I mattered. It was almost like having the holiday or the vacation or the event to look forward to. If I didn't have someone to be taken care of, I didn't feel like there was much worthiness from me. Like I didn't have a purpose. You know, I always felt like I had to be putting my energy into others or I would be just wasting my life, you know? Breathe. Yeah. You know, it's funny, as a yoga teacher, breathing came the last for me to learn. Years into yoga practice, honestly. Like the idea of breathing and moving at the same time, you know? And I'm neurodivergent, so I admit that some things take me a little longer because I take my time. I have a learning process that is my own and I love it. But yes, breathe. Yes, breathe. So with my eggshell and with your eggshell at home, you could just hold on to the shell and think about what you'd like for March. Think about what you want for this next season. We're 2 days away from our first full moon in the Fire Horse. So it's the first full moon of this calendar. And, you know, this is also, I think, the worm moon in I think it's the Farmer's Almanac, or however they call the moon. And I love to think about the worms and how they get in there and they move the soil around and get it all ready for things to start growing and sprouting and coming back to life again. And it sort of feels like this. You know, you could put some ideas in this thought, in this energy, in this eggshell, and maybe it would come back to life again. I mean, I would say it would absolutely come back to life again, but as a skeptical being, which I assume anybody could be in the beginning, maybe you'd be, maybe. Sometimes maybe's enough though. So then you'd sit and you'd think, you know, I'd really love this and I'd love this, and it would be good to have this. And we don't go into the how. How is not magic. That's the universe's job. We think about what. We think about why. Thank you, I love this. Yes, I would love that. I would love that, you know. And then, so for this kind of a thing, you can always, you know, I have a girlfriend that does, and we've done like yoga belly dance classes together, which is really fun. But no, and I would love to because I got a good belly, but no. You could always add more to this kind of a moment. You could add like a candle, some crystals, sounds. You know, you could make it a little ceremony or a little ritual, but you could also just sit with your eggshell. Hey, good morning. I'm trying to get better with all of the cameras and all of the angles and all the King's horses and all the King's men. So each day it's gonna get better. But yeah, I'm really excited about this space. I feel like for so many months I've been wanting to find a time that made sense for me and that made sense, same, and that made sense for like my schedule. I'm a homeschool mom, you know. I have my own business. I coach and I teach yoga, but I want this too. And I kept thinking, when can I do this? And I was like, girl, do it in the morning. It is totally fine if not everyone is up in the morning. You know, that's what replays are for. But this is your best juice. This is your energy. Just do it. So here I am, just doing it. Thank you, eggshells. And then, so you can think into your eggshell. I do recommend one thing before you get on to the next part of the magic. Now, if you're seeing this at any point, you can practice eggshell magic. I'm giving this advice as if you're watching this today on Sunday, and in 2 days on Tuesday is our full moon. So if you're watching this today or tomorrow, you know, and you have your eggshell that you've cleaned off a little or not, whatever, get kinky with it. After you take some time and think into the eggshell, you know, if you're playing with the candle, you could drop some wax. You know, you don't have to do anything else, but you could. I would say take a moment and mark the eggshell before you go on to the next part of your magic. Whether it's a symbol or a word, a letter, doesn't matter. A shape, a picture, a whole dang sentence if you want to. But take a little bit and make a mark, your mark, from an instrument onto your eggshell. So I'm gonna just draw a heart, and it's, you know, it's not gonna always show up that well, but that's okay because I love it anyway. And, you know, just a little bit of a marking. You can't really see, I'm so sorry. But anyway, I've drawn a little bit of a baby heart. Think heart. Here, what we'll do. You can use anything you want to make a mark. Sometimes I use my ink and it's red, and I'll do like a fingerprint so it looks like a blood print, because I'm not into making myself bleed. Period is a sentence. I'm not into, so I will do that, and that kind of feels fun and magical. Sometimes I'll draw like a sigil. Sometimes I'll write, or there's a dot. See, I've made a mark on a shell. So now I'm going to take the shell and I'll just leave it wherever my space. So I have altar space all over the home, but you don't have to do that. You could have it like right where your coffee maker is. You could have it sitting next to your coffee, on your nightstand, on your dresser, in your bathroom, but anywhere for just like a day or so. Keep your egg. And then on this full moon Tuesday, and it doesn't have to be at nighttime, even though that could feel more magical. It's all up to you how you want it to be. But there's so much space to make it good for you. You know, like you could absolutely go out at night and under the moon and dig a little hole and put your shell in there. You could absolutely do it during the day. You could absolutely go out and just get some dirt and bring it in the house in a bowl and put your shell in there like a potted plant and bring it in. You could absolutely take your shell outside, dig a little hole, crumble up your egg and put it in like your garden. You know, there are so many ways, and I would say very few wrong ways to practice this sort of a magic or alchemy. And then you sort of bury it back up and you know you're done. The cool thing about all of this is it's kind of, I came from the world of Western medicine. You know, I worked in medical field for 10 years. And, you know, I relied on medicine and clinicians and doctors. And it took a little bit for me to be convinced of our energetic body. You know, it took a little bit of time for me to learn about our invisible self because I spent so much time on these tangible, you know, real things like medicines, you know, procedures, surgeries, you know. But I have now, I'm about to be 10 years into the yoga and the healing of my own self. And I guess I can now fairly say in the invisible medicine and in the real medicine, they're both there and they can both support you. So, sorry, my mouth is so dry. So just like, you know, when you go and hear about doctor clinical trials, you know that they have like this placebo panel. They'll have a group of people. Half of people will get the medicine, half of people will get sugar medicine. And so even if this isn't doing it, you know, the placebo effect for me as a science-minded person has always been satisfied that the result is the same. Can I get into the ethers and prove that it was my eggshell? Not necessarily. There are some moments where I've used things like this smoky quartz that I will forever say that if it weren't for this, I wouldn't have. You know, I will say that smoky quartz saved my middle daughter from drowning that day. We were at Beaver Dam and I had just gotten a chunk of this guy for the first time. And that part of my journey, all I wanted was more intuition. All I wanted was to hear from this invisible part of me that knew everything. You know, give me that, give me that. So when I picked up this rock, it sort of made me feel like it would slow down that part of me, like turn off the intuition even. And I'm like, wait, what? I don't want to do that. So I just sort of put it in the pile of clean things up a bit because I really didn't want to carry a rock outside turning off my intuition. It felt very counterintuitive to everything I was doing. Until this day, we were going to Beaver Dam. It's like a swim space near us, and it has a quarry with supposedly no bottom. Now, of course, somewhere down there is a bottom, but clearly it's way down there. I was thinking, you know, this is probably a good time as a mom of 3 kids to turn off my intuition up there and just be here in this space. Make sure the babies don't drown, you know? This is a very smart place. This is a good idea. Let's take this quartz. Hey, good morning. I know, thanks, Liz. I was so surprised when I realized 10 years, frack, that's a long time. God, don't tell me I'm afraid of commitment. Okay, so now I'm at this place, you know, me and the family are just getting unpacked, and I got 3 kids. I'm having a toddler little boy, and at this point, my then partner, husband, dad of the children, he's holding the baby. I'm setting things down. The girls now like scurry off and jump into the pool. So where we're used to living, and maybe any pool I've ever seen, to be honest, has sort of started out where it gets shallow, deeper, 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 you know, or deeper, 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 deeper. This pool was different. This pool was shallow, deeper, deeper, deep, deeper, deeper. So the deepest point was sort of like just past the middle, you know? It would be like in the pool's like deep zone, but before it got deep, deep. But now the middle was the deep. So it would go from like 3.5, 5. And then it was over here, it was 3.5, 4, 5. So, or however it was, or maybe like, anyway, it was not the design that we were used to. And my girls jump in the middle. They see 3 on the ground. They know they're both about 4 feet tall. And they just jump in. Hey, thanks. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. They see this mark. They think they jump in. And they do jump in. So I'm putting the stuff down. The guy over here's got the baby. Literally, my back is turned to the girls because I'm bending over putting things down. And I just hear, look. I stand up and I turn around just in time to see my daughter's face, not making sounds, just looking at me. And she goes, bloop, under the water. Like, bloop. I was like, shit. So I like, now at this point, I am over here putting the things down. And I hear, look, I'm like, shit. And I just run and jump in the water, Like, I think I glanced to make sure that Spoon had our baby, but I just run and jumped in the water. The lifeguard didn't even see it because it was so fast. She didn't get to make a noise. She went to feel for the ground. She could tell it wasn't there. Her doggy paddle wasn't as strong as I guess we thought so. But yeah, it was crazy. And I swear, I will never, ever not say that it was the Smoky Quartz. It was good old Smoky that saved Maddie Pie that day. And I would like to think that the lifeguards would have seen and, maybe it would have been a little bit more choky, but I got there so quick. She still had breath. She was holding her breath because she knew she was going, but she didn't even get to choke. There was no CPR needed. It was just a really great story about how my daughter didn't drown and how, wow, pools are different. Pools can be made all sorts of ways, But yeah, it's just so funny also, I'm concerned about the bottomless quarry. I didn't even consider that there could be a different shaped pool or God, what do you call this pool? It's like, it's a cool idea. I really think so, especially if you think about diving. Like, if you're gonna, I love to dive. So usually when I dive into the pool, I'm not near, I guess when I go to the big public pool, it's one thing. But most of the time when I dive into a pool, I know I'm at the deepest part. I gotta start coming up because I'm gonna break my face if I don't, It's a kind of a great idea to have it deeper. That's a hell of a dive. I would love to dive in that pool now that I think about it. But at the time, I was not there. I was just very glad that my kid didn't drown. So anyway, thank you, Smokey. So if you're gonna practice your eggshell magic, wherever you are in the day, whenever I am talking with Alchemy, whether we're hanging out with the Moonies or if it's a new client or a new friend or someone new on the internet, you're always gonna know the best thing for you. Listen to my ideas, listen to your friends' ideas, Google it all day long. But when you're in the moment and something feels like, oh, that might be good, do that. That's your best you. Like, we are all very similar in some things, but we are all so different in just as many things. So when you're thinking about practicing alchemy or practicing manifesting, doing this invisible work on purpose for yourself, let your freak flag fly in this space. Do not limit and smother and small yourself because, well, she just does this. If you want to make it a bigger production, make it a bigger production. If you want to call the girls over and have a night of eggshells and burying it by the fire, like this girl probably would, do that. And if you want to just sit there in the evening and you're not sure if any of this shit's real, but you're going to give it a go because what do you have to lose? It's free. It's here. There's dirt out there. Also, if you don't have dirt, you can get dirt nearby. You can bring some dirt inside. You can use plants. There's no wrong way. Sand would also work. You could throw it into a body of water. I guess in that respect, you could flush it down the toilet, but that feels symbolically, I wouldn't do that. But maybe you're trying to bless your pipes. It's never gonna be wrong in some sort of a crazy or another, not the best word scenario. So again, let your stuff work for you. You know what you're creating. You know what you're thinking into. Maybe there's something special about toilets. Maybe you want to race in the toilet races. I would love to do that one day. I just don't want to break my teeth or body parts. I'm definitely one of these people who loves the idea of like thrill seeking without pain or risk. You know, I think I lived so long thrill seeking for adrenaline, for like proof of life, like you still up there? And now I don't want the risk the same. Now I just would like it for the view, you know, or for the woo, but not for maybe I might die. I do feel very alive right now that I don't have to test the waters in that way. I wonder if anybody else feels that way. Like even tattoos. I had other tattoo plans in mind, but the idea of sitting through the pain now feels crazy. Okay, let me stop. So now we've had the eggshell. We've thought with it. You can think whatever you want. If you're brand new to this and you're wanting to be precise, maybe just think about the precise thing and why, how it would feel. Think that, not the how, not the details, not the all the truths that you know that it's not going to happen. That doesn't go into the magic. After you do that, put a little mark on it of some sort. If you have a moment before the full moon, leave it sit by the bed table. And then on the day of the full moon, oh my God, thank God. Liz says the other day her son was eating food and started choking, and the dad was right there and was able to save him. It's so amazing when you think about these moments, you know, like that could have been a totally different story. You know, my little person it would have been a totally different story. You know, it's always, whenever we have these moments, it's like, and I know people say that it's not good for us to think about those what ifs, but you know, there was this time me and my BFF were driving across town on Exeter Hall, and we're driving in my little Geo Metro, I think, and it's a stick, and I'm driving, zoom, and this guy gets right in front of us, like zoom, and then stopped, right? And I had to pull the brakes so fast because we were going to eat his bum. You know, we were driving. It was like 20 to 25 miles an hour, and now there is a car immediately in front of me. I pulled the emergency brake so fast, we did not hit the other car. I actually looked at Mary, I was like, did you pull the brake? And she's like, no. And I was like, I did that? Like, whoa! You know, like, what a rush. You know, but in that moment, you know, her daughter was in the back seat. Also very, very happily, a police officer saw that and pulled him over. I was very happy for police officer justice that day. Forever, anti-road rage, anti-driving like a donkey. Slow down, get there alive. It's not worth it. I'm just never, ever going to be that guy. Like, don't drive fast unless you're in a place where you drive fast, like a racetrack. Or at least the highway, but not a residential road. You know what I mean? Like that. Anyway, I just, you know, I value life. Especially little people's lives that have not even had a chance to experiment. Don't ruin little innocent lives, you know. Speaking of that, don't speak of that. We all know that. And that sucks. You could even put that in here. You could think, I want better for my country. I want less pain for everybody in my country and everybody that my country is connected to and putting their connection to. You know, you could think that. And you could also bury that under the full moon and add your energy to that. Whenever I'm talking about these things, I like to go back and forth for just a moment. This is always going to be a multi-experience. You are a human that is having a personal experience and a collective experience. We have an experience inside of our home. We have an experience outside in our workspace. We have an experience in our social life. And we have an experience inside of our country and our government. And there are parts that we have more control over than others. And it's really easy to see what's happening and feel uncertain or scared or angry or rageful. And I think that all that energy is good to acknowledge and honor and give space to. And I think that doing things like praying and alchemy and considering solutions, thinking about how to lift up first yourself, because just like in the airplane, you put your mask on first. If you are feeling desperate and afraid, all you have to offer is desperate and afraid. If that's what you're feeling, you tend to you. You are the most important person in this experience first. And then you can help others. Then you can bless others. Then you can be of service to others. And this includes moms, especially includes moms. It's so easy to get caught up in our everyday caretaking and forget ourselves. All the ways, metaphorically and physically and hygienically, it's easy to do that. But it is important to make the time for yourself. It's important, even if it's when I'm washing these dishes, I'm going to think into me. When I'm making my food, I'm going to put it on my favorite plate for me. When I'm going to do these little things for me. And whether we have a lot of control over some parts, when we are able to strengthen the parts that we can get, we're able to start coming into those scarier spaces with solution, with help, with support. We don't feel disempowered. We don't feel upside down. We feel like we're ready to bring whatever we have to the table for change. And sometimes the first steps are prayers and alchemy. And I want better for this world, whether I want it from God or I want it from egg magic or I want it from the universe, wherever you're calling it from. I want it through my being. I want it, and I'm calling it in. I'm commanding it in. If I get to command energy, I'm commanding well-being for all of us. I'm commanding in some sort of a revolution, perhaps. So don't limit yourself. Don't feel like you can never do nothing. Don't feel like magic is small. Look at my curl in my hair and my curl in my earring. I'm totally digging it. Feel big. You are big. And when you are connecting to your power, your alignment, you are bigger. When you are thinking and feeling from love, you are more powerful. And then you're able to be what you want to be. You want to help. You want to see things differently. And you want to do this in a way that makes sense for you. And you'll be able to do that when you anchor in your stability first. It will come. You will get your nuggets. You will get your ideas. You will get your knowings. You just gotta take the time. And I don't like to tell people what they just gotta do, but when it comes to this, I say, you just gotta do it. In the beginning, the same way we wake up and take care of a baby in the middle of the night, you just gotta do that. You just gotta start in the beginning. Sometimes it really feels inauthentic. I did not like myself, much alone love myself in the beginning. I didn't want to spend these moments doing shit I hated, telling myself that I liked it. It felt like bull crap. And it made me more angry even at times. But I will say that the moments where I was practicing alchemy and learning about invisible elements and their properties and how that could maybe attribute to what I'm creating in some sort of an invisible space. Do I want strength? Yes. Do I want protection? Yes. Do I want new growth? Yes. Does this cost anything? If I weren't on the internet telling anybody, would anybody ever know? No. That means I have nothing to lose. Only it could work. And if all else fails, you could just call it a meditative experience. I was meditating with some eggshells the other day. Anything in the world of meditation is good for us. I'm pretty sure we all feel that way by now. Anytime you can get into a meditative state, that would be more like into your flow state. you're in the right spot. And just a reminder, if you're already happy and like flow state's a little slower, stay happier. Oh. Uh-oh. Okay. I was thinking today in Yoga World, we would share some tree pose. And I was thinking about tree pose because it's a pose for me that requires slowing down. In my left foot, I have 9 screws and some of the joints of my ankle have been fused together for my heel to be rebuilt. So I have balance on one side, not balance on the other side. So I almost always have to use like a prop, a chair, a wall, something to balance if I am standing and trying to balance on my left foot. But for tree pose, I like it for the grounding. I like it for stretching and taking up space. And I love the idea of practicing tree pose today on March 1st. It feels very like making sense. Feels very slow down and be on purpose. So I'm gonna just pivot the camera a little bit. Hopefully this one will cooperate too. And let's see how that goes. For a tree pose, it's gonna be a standing pose. And you don't necessarily need a mat for this. I'm wearing socks. I'm not sure I necessarily recommend that, but you know. Don't say that, Nancy, because you'll fall on your head. Yes, ma'am. I was gonna say, don't say it, Nancy. I'm not gonna say it. All right, this camera is a little weird over here. I'm so sorry. Oh my stars. All right, this camera is not the best. I'll do better with this guy tomorrow, guys. Yesterday there was no camera here, so it's already better there in that aspect. Maybe I should, no. Should I? No, I don't want to. Ugh. That camera looks like crap, I'm so sorry. But the original, or sorry, the upload rather, will be from this camera, which is a little better. I wanted to do this from my rear-facing camera. And so far I am still on front-facing because, whoa, you're really zoomed into my crotch. That's inappropriate. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. I actually have some of like human friends that I know over there, and I just totally like did not mean to do that. Okay. All right. This is an actual better angle for this part. All right. Now I come down a little. That should do well enough without being vulgar. All is very well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so for tree pose, we're just gonna start in the middle of our mat. And kind of in like a mountain pose. I'm so sorry, Facebook, you cannot see my legs, but they're down there. So it's better than what you saw a minute ago. Let's try that. Okay, maybe that'll be better. I do have pants on, I swear. Okay. So we'll start by warming up the feet. Whenever we're warming up the feet in mountain pose, remember, spread your toes and press them into the mat like cats making biscuits. So lift the toes, spread the toes, lift the feet, step them back down, like on purpose marching, you know? Wiggle the ankles, take your time and go back and forth. Thanks for the heart. Just warm up your body. I always like to let everything kind of warm up. I never go right into making poses. I just don't. And maybe nobody ever does. So lift the toes, spread the toes. And as you're looking down at your feet, making sure the feet are parallel to the mat so they're lining up pretty straight. Even if that's not your normal stance, especially if that's not your normal stance, practice doing that right now. Making the feet about 2 fists apart. So they're lining up more under hip points and ears, not wider and not touching, but about here, okay? Looking down, lift the toes, spread the toes, lift up on the heels, back on the heels, side to side on the feet, warming up all of the edges of the foot, almost like it's a little square or rectangle. Bend the knees and then stand up. Bend the knees and stand up again. Press the belly forward. Stand up nice and tall. Bring the shoulders up to your ears and then let them come back down again. Bring your shoulders up to your ears and then curl them back. Big breath in. Let your fingers start reaching down to the ground. Keep the spine nice and straight. Press into the big toes. See if you can keep pressing into the big toes a lot. Keep pressing into the big toes. Take a breath in. We're just going to breathe our arms 1 second because once we get into a tree, we will stretch our arms. Let's warm them up first. Take a breath in, and as we do that, just breathe the arms up, up, up. Fingers long, reaching out, 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 and then bring the hands together almost like a clap above the head. Palms touch, and then back down, down, down to the sides again. One more time. Big breath in, and then exhale. Shake the head. Oh, neck crunch. Hello. Make a couple circles with the neck. And then we're going to start with the right foot because that's my side I have balance on. I'm going to bring the right foot more center. So now my right foot is more under my nose, not at the ear. And with the left foot, I'm going to prop up the heel and just lean that foot on the shin for now. So the left foot is on the ground, heel propped up, turn to the side, and I'm pressing on this right long leg. As I'm doing that, press this big toe into the mat a lot. Find something in the room to balance on. I'm going to be sort of looking back and forth because I'm looking at the camera, but find something to focus on. Maybe there's like a picture on the wall or a dot. Maybe there is anything like your coffee mug. Find something to stare on right in front of you. And as you do that, press into your big toe. Look at what you're staring at. You can have your hands on purpose. So they can be on your hips, they could be down to the side. And just start to walk this left foot up the leg. Now, you can take your time, and of course, if you're balancing, get the balance, you know? But as you do that, move up here. You know, everybody likes to advise, don't spend too much time pushing at the knee. It wouldn't be safe or natural for our knee to go this away. So as we move up this spot, try to find a place, either down here in the shin or up higher in the thigh, that you're not going to press this leg into the knee. As you do that, we're still pressing the big toe of this right foot a lot. Now we're pressing this foot into this thigh or shin and straightening it out. So you can feel this inner tension in those legs, kind of very sturdy like a tree. And if you have some balance, while you're looking at what you're looking at, usually the focal point is very helpful in keeping balance in the whole body. You can start lifting an arm, maybe 2 arms. And then if you feel really balanced, you can try and change your focus. Lift the gaze, look up, up, up with the eyes and chin. And then see how long you can hold a big tree. Take a big breath in. Let's bring the hands in at prayer. And then bring that tree back down to the ground. Of course, if you come out as you're moving and playing, you can go back in or just come back down and stand for a second and breathe. And just ground into it. This definitely took a moment to get used to, as far as, especially when I look up, because all my balance starts shaking. And even though I have balance on this side, I rarely practice balance because I don't have it on this side. My own thing, you know. So now I'm going to bring the left foot under my nose. See how well we can do a Terminator foot today. Left foot under my nose. Press that big toe deeply into the mat. I'm going to pivot this right foot so the ankle is now on the shin, toes are on the mat, so the heel's like propped up. Find my steady gaze, so a long line of energy pressing this big toe. I'm going to attempt to walk this foot up the side leg. You will see the wobble. I got a couple seconds. Be on purpose with your arms, and sometimes you're like surfing. You could absolutely get closer to the wall or a handy dandy bar stool. You all have a bar stool in your house, right? That's normal. It is normal. Now that I got a handy dandy bar stool, I can put my heel up a little higher. Feels better. And I can just take and reach up with eyes. Let's see if I can do a little sheep. Oh, oh. Oh snap! Look at Terminator! Thank you, tree. And then just take a moment, let the feet walk down, shake it out, walk it out. Wrap your arms around your body. Switch them up, put the other arm on top. Bring one hand to heart, one hand to belly. Think into the body. Thank you, body. Thank you, body. Thank you, body. Think into the body. I love you, body. I love you, body. I love you, body. Thanks for being here. I will see you tomorrow. If you have any questions about this or anything that I share ever, please feel free to reach out. I have a scheduling app, so we could set up a session or coaching or a reading, whatever you like. And in FB land, there's a group where we learn a little bit more in depth about the alchemy things. If you want to find me over there or message me, I can send you a link. And we'll probably be practicing a little bit more in that group this week, just playing with the eggshells, playing on purpose, of course. So yeah, see you soon, bye.